Address the committee briefly.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This bill is in response to a number of discussions that this committee has had over the past few sessions regarding sexual harassment in the workplace. We do have an amendment that will be offered by my colleague, Representative Cephas. I want to thank her for her work on the amendment and the underlying bill with me. This is certainly a very important issue to protect employees in the workplace. And what the bill ultimately does with the amendment would really narrowly focus the bill on banning non-disclosure agreements in relation to sexual harassment claims as a condition of employment. And the bill also, as amended, would allow employers and employees to mutually agree to a settlement agreement if that settlement agreement is part of a sexual harassment claim, complaint, or proceeding. So I would certainly appreciate the committee's support on this bill. We've worked with a number of stakeholders in getting this bill to this point. And again, I would ask the committee's support of the underlying amendment and then the bill ultimately, hopefully, as amended. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'd like to ask Shannon Walker to provide a synopsis of the bill.
House Bill 849 establishes the Disclosing Sexual Harassment in the Workplace Act. This bill prohibits employers from requiring employees and prospective employees from signing an agreement as a condition of employment that prohibits or restricts an employee from opposing, disclosing, reporting, or participating in an investigation of sexual harassment, or an agreement that waives a substantive or procedural right or remedy available to the employee with respect to a sexual harassment claim. House Bill 849 allows employers and employees to voluntarily enter into either of the prohibited agreements I just described, as well as entering into settlement agreements with a non-disclosure provision, so long as both parties mutually consent to it. Additionally, settlement agreements under House Bill 849 may not contain terms that restricts an employee from working for the employer in the future, and any provision signed after the effective date of this bill that's found to be in violation would be void and unenforceable.
Thank you. At this time, Representative Cephas would like to offer Amendment A1575 to House Bill 849. I'm going to ask Haley Solera, Democratic Committee staff, to explain the amendment.
Amendment 1575, Representative Cephas's amendment, removes some of the language that was inconsistent with the intent of the bill and addresses the concerns expressed by the advocates and stakeholders. Specifically, it distinguishes between involuntary and voluntary non-disclosure agreements as follows. A non-disclosure agreement used as a condition of employment is involuntary and therefore prohibited. However, a voluntary agreement entered into voluntarily entering into an agreement settlement with a non-disclosure provision agreed to by each party as part of the settlement of a harassment claim, complaint, or proceeding is not prohibited. Remove Section 3C, which placed restrictions on voluntary settlement agreements and requires that any provision of an agreement or waiver signed after the effective date must be severed from the remainder of the agreement, and the severed provisions shall be void and unenforceable.
Thank you. And is there any discussion on the amendment? Representative Cephas?
So I just want to thank the maker of the bill and my colleagues for raising this issue and really trying to move the needle, not just in the Capitol or in Hollywood, but really on the ground where we have our employees that we really have to protect. And I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge two of our advocacy groups that really were working literally down to the hour Friday at 5 o'clock. The Women's Law Project and the Pennsylvania Coalition Against Rape, who were really influential on making sure that this bill protected those that we were really trying to protect. So I want to thank you for them and thank you for my colleagues for hopefully agreeing with this amendment.
And is it my understanding that both of those groups support the amendment?
Yes, they do.
Fantastic. Any additional discussion on the amendment? Do we have any negative votes on the amendment? I'm sorry, we need a motion first. We have a motion to adopt the amendment. Representative McKenzie, a second. Representative Donatucci. At this time, I'd like to ask if there are any negative votes on the amendment. All right, seeing none. Amendment A1575 is adopted. And since I'm not in receipts of any other amendments, I'd like to see if there's any other discussion on the bill, House Bill 849, as amended. Representative Kruger.
Just briefly, Mr. Chairman, last session year, this committee started very important work with multiple hearings on the issue of sexual harassment. I want to thank the prime sponsor of this bill for being so receptive to feedback from stakeholders, and the co-prime for offering the amendment that was accepted unanimously to make this bill the solution we need. I'm proud to support this bill today.
Thank you. Any other discussion on the bill as amended? All right. Do we have a motion to report the bill as amended? Representative Dush, seconded by Representative Mizgorski. Are there any negative votes on the bill as amended? All right, hearing none. House Bill 849 is reported from the committee as amended.